So I thought it would be interesting to discuss a question which I have encountered very often personally when either I lecture or teach or meet young Indians in the present phase of India's development. And that question is more or less, what is the place, the role, the importance of disciplines like archaeology, ancient history, epigraphy, or let us say more broadly an understanding of ancient Indian culture. And what does it mean? Is it necessary to study? I live in Tamil Nadu, and a few years ago we had a Minister of Education of Tamil Nadu who boldly declared that what's the use of history? We are going to scrap the whole subject at school level. Let us scrap it. Children are overburdened. What's the use? It's no use at all. You can't get a job out of history. So that line of thinking is very much present, and not only in our politicians, but of course also in a certain proportion of young Indians. But let us keep this kind of very negative thinking aside and look at it more positively. What do you feel? Okay, you've heard me for a few lectures here, and you were attracted to the topic because this was an elective. You selected it. And what is it that, in your opinion, these kind of fields can bring to a young Indian? That's one question. And secondly, we are here in an IIT. Theoretically, it's a technical institution, not supposed to be much concerned with humanities, though here we have a very vibrant department of humanities. So what do you think that an institution like an IIT could play in these fields, in those disciplines? So these are two questions. Maybe they are somewhat connected also.
Yeah, one of the best outcome from this course, I will say that initially when people used to ask me, I used to say people that I'll proud my India. But if somebody asks me the next question, why do you proud? What is there in India on which thing you are proud of? Then it was usually that I was not able to answer satisfactorily those people. But I guess this course helped a lot me. Now I will be able to answer them what ancient India had in this. The second thing is I'm a technical person. I'm from technical guy. But during my practical works in past 4 years in this college at some other institutions, I realized that for solving any real life problem, we don't need only technical aspect. We need a lot of people like anthropologists. We need real life solver problems, the people who can connect to the people, economists, and a lot of people. So just knowing technology cannot solve the problem. So if I know a bit about my own ancient India, somewhere maybe I will be able to apply those things, those rules in my future life to solve real life problems. Other things is like, since childhood I used to always have a curiosity about how I must know something about my country. I must know about the great people like Aryabhatta, Varahamihira, Panini. Because my theory books usually provided me just names of the people in just 1 or 2 lines. But this was the course which enabled me to know about them, why they were great, what were the theories produced. One other thing, like, we follow a lot of rituals, customs in our society, but most of us don't think like why they are followed. Usually the people regard them as like we are following the rituals and we don't have any scientific basis. But after doing this course, I realized we have a lot of scientific basic reasoning after those things, and it was a very intellectual learning in terms that I realized my own country's culture. I learned that we must keep learning, keep thinking about my own country.
I think archaeology has played a very important role in Indian history. The theoretical records, manuscripts about Indian history, most of them are written in Greeks or Persian books. So the actual proofs were found through archaeology only. And if you look at ancient Indian civilization like Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, and Dholavira and Lothal, I mean, their techniques, mainly water conservation techniques, those are really useful nowadays also. And the thinking of Indians about archaeology and their Indian monuments, it's not in a good position or good shape. I mean, I have seen so many people just walking over ancient monuments or forts. So that kind of attitude needs to be changed, because you can always learn from history. Yeah, those ministers have said that there's nothing to learn from history. I think it is the same opinion from it is the same opinion of some of my friends, because in the history academia there are two kinds of people who say that India has everything and India didn't have anything. So when students were confused with these two kinds of people, obviously he will be confused and he will not be interested. So there is a need of rational approach to Indian history. Of course, there might be something which was done, and there might have been something which they didn't do. You know, when in my school days, I used to attend, mathematical lectures. In my school, they used to have one class on ancient Indian mathematics, but they were not discussing all these things. So I was thinking like these people might have done some very minute things. There is nothing to learn from them. But on the other day when I was looking at Aryabhatta's, I was like, it was wonderful. This guy has used everything. I mean, his brain he has used to the fullest of his mind. So that was great. And the things I have learned from this course and from Indian history is the way of living first, ecological traditions. We say that we have space missions and we have sent people to moon, but the first thing is we don't solve the problems of people on the earth. You know, with this, we say that we have a lot of technology, but still 3 billion people are having, people are living in poverty. And the other thing is they are living in poverty because of some other people's habit of living. Because of us, so many people are doing sacrifices, like Adivasis, tribals they are displaced from their homes in forest, and some species are becoming extinct. So we are just within this after industrial revolution, after 200 years or 100 years, we have exhausted all the resources on the earth. But right from 5,000 years, there were so many civilizations, not only Indian civilization, there were so many civilizations, but they have used resources. Some of them might have used them very in the good manner. That's why we are enjoying the resources. If you just exhaust them, the next generations will have nothing. So that is the best part we can learn from our ancestors. And I hope the Indian mind about these subjects like archaeology and epigraphy, because there are so many manuscripts which were not explored till now. No, I have read some books. Their authors say that there are so many manuscripts that these are not till read and research is going on. But I think this should be qualitative. Just because we are Indians, we shouldn't say everything. This was great. This was great. It shouldn't be like that. It should be rational.
Not just through some external continuities that we can document archaeologically, like, okay, the Harappans have this swastika, so do we, that's fine. That's important, but there are more subtle continuities. And to my mind, the pity is that the whole system of education doesn't, educate Indians about this kind of continuous thread with the past, and how we can, as you say, still learn things. So I think that vision is something that was great. I am not saying that it is to be replicated exactly as it was. Everything can be adapted to changing circumstances. But
I think this course has made me aware about our own culture, which was there in the ancient India, and like you said, it's subtle is presently there in a subtle manner. So I think when I used to read history in my school days, So that was the most boring lecture for me. I never used to enjoy it, and now I realize that most of the time we are even taught wrong things in our history books. And I think the point of view or the way the history is told to us is very different. It may be Eurocentric view. I'm not sure, maybe. And we have, now I realize that there has been a rupture in our culture due to two reasons. Maybe due to foreign invasions, and secondly due to the incoming of the Britishers or colonization of India by Britishers. And one thing that I realized was that at the present time we try to find very complex solutions for even simple problems, and in those times they used to come up with very simple solutions even for very complex problems. So I think this is something that we can learn from them. At present, if we have some water related problem, we would build dams, and that to big dams on a river, and ultimately that water would go to the cities, not to the villages or the farmers for whom they were meant. And in those times they had a decentralization method. Everything was decentralized, even the power was decentralized, the watershed management was decentralized. They would, and even if they constructed dams, they would look into the account that one dam would not hinder the functioning of the other dam. So I think they had a very deep insight about the problems that they were facing, be it technological problem or social problem, and they never used to segregate between all these sort of problems. Everything was interlinked, and even they never had a distinction between art and science like we have it today. Everything was knowledge. So, and I think now we are again going back to the connection between all the disciplines and their intermingling. So I think in some manner we are going back to what what the Indians were already doing. So I think this course has actually made me realize and understand a lot about how our country used to function, and in the present manner, if there are things like you said, that the past is still being carried forward, and if we look in the present scenario, that is what is being carried forward is sort of a we say it strikes out from on one hand we have globalization, opening of our economy, and we are following Western culture. On the other hand, we also are following what has been followed from generations to generations. So there is sort of a hybridity at the moment. So I don't know, is it good or not? Or maybe we can learn best of the two and adapt to it. But I think the course has actually made us realize a lot of things in this aspect.
It is really do play an important part in our lives, sir. Actually, we have a lot to learn from history and our past. Actually, and sir, whether it is archaeology or history or epigraphy, so our institutions, technical institutions like IIT Gandhinagar, they can play an important role in contributing to that. So, for example, sir, there is a case of epigraphy. What we can do is we can suppose make a program sort of thing, which can means decipher the meanings of the scripts by comparing it to other scripts and so on, other symbols and so on. So, sir, I think that technical institutions can play a very important role in these disciplines. For example, and in the case of archaeology also, sir, they can help a lot. They can invent new instruments or many machines which can be used for archaeological purposes. So, and sir, regarding this course, sir, this course has taught us a lot of ancient culture, and this course has taught us many things which were not included in our textbooks, really. So, because in textbooks it was only one chapter on our Vedic civilization and Harappan civilization. But what we learned here in this course was really that they had too much, that they developed water storing techniques and many other great achievements they had. So, sir, I think that we can still learn from those their time and what they did. For example, Aryabhatta and all, they he developed sine and cosine at that time, which was a superb achievement, sir. So I think that we can learn a lot from the past people, great people, savants who contributed to the science and technology. And sir, as you said, there is a continuity also in our present time, that some cultures and some things do continue to be in our lives. So I think, sir, that this course was a great experience, sir. Thank you.
I would like to add ancient time, it was not based on like axioms or proofs. It was more based on intuition, and it was also said by some we need not go on with the traditions. We need to question it, yes, and test it and experiment with it. So I think this method of education can be adopted at IIT. So we can have a different method of learning or of educating ourselves in the technical field here.
You see, about archaeology and history depends on archaeology, obviously. For as you said also, Omkaram, we can't always depend on the texts. We have also to have the hard evidence that is buried underground. So the two together, can change our perspective. And in fact, in the West, in recent decades, archaeology has become a very highly scientific discipline. It integrates a lot of physics, dating methods, very sophisticated dating methods we have never heard of, not just carbon-14, not just thermoluminescence, but all kinds of isotopes, all kinds of, to extract as much data as possible from the smallest bits of material. And it has a lot of chemistry also. For instance, I was reading recently about some pottery I think in Italy, and they wanted to know what this pottery had contained. And they did advanced chemical analysis of the inner wall of the pottery, and they found that these were milk products and things like that. So we've never done this kind of things in India. And here the IIT Kanpur has actually a technical collaboration with the Archaeological Survey of India, in that, for instance, they're doing ground penetrating radar so ground penetrating radar is a non-invasive method by which you send a radar, a sonar wave into the ground, and then the radar picks up the echo and gets a mapping of underground structure. So you can immediately, without excavating at all, have a pretty good idea of, if not exactly what is there, at least where it is interesting to excavate. So these things have existed for a long time in the West, but in India, we are always slow to change, and it's only recently that such collaborations, which I think are a very good sign, they are not yet very widespread. They are still on very limited projects, but perhaps eventually. So it is my hope that an IIT like this one, which is young and dynamic and open to lots of things, could play a part in this.